Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.
Good afternoon and welcome to Working for You. I am Lesroy Williams. Today I am joined by officials from the Ministry of International Trade. The Ministry of International Trade has at least 4 departments, and we will be talking about what these departments do. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's program. As usual, you're very welcome to this program. We would have a very lively discussion. I have at least 5 persons who would be on the panel. I would first have 3 persons and then another 2 would come to discuss the issues taking place in the Ministry of International Trade. I now introduce you to my panel. I have Ms. Lindis Harris, who is Trade Policy Officer at the Department of Trade. Welcome, Lindis.
Thank you.
I have Mr. Philip Brown, who is Director of Industry, Commerce, and NED, which stands for the National Entrepreneurial Development Division. Mr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you.
And Mr. Delwayne Delaney, who is Senior Officer for Small Business Development Centers. He deals with that small business component in terms of industry. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Delaney.
Thank you.
Okay. The Ministry of International Trade comprises 4 distinct departments. The Department of Trade, the Department of Industry and Commerce, Department of Consumer Affairs, and Department of St. Kitts and Nevis Bureau of Standards. The mandate of the ministry is to facilitate international trade through the implementation of appropriate trade policies while ensuring that the benefits from participating in trade agreements and trade relations are beneficial to our people and stimulate economic growth.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
You're so correct.
Okay. Means I would have done my homework.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to start with Lindis. Now, the Department of Trade, Ministry of Trade. Now, the Grand Anse Declaration of 1989 of CARICOM decided on an integrated development strategy and altered the Treaty of Chaguaramas. We know that, which was in, I think, 1971.
71, yes.
In Trinidad, to accommodate a new vision for regional integration called the CSME,
Yes.
the Caribbean Single Market and Economy. This strategy laid out a framework to deepen economic integration by going beyond a common market towards a single market and economy. Now, once ago we used to say CARICOM stands for the Caribbean Common Market. Now we say it's the Caribbean Community. We used to say Caribbean Common Market. Now we say Caribbean Community. Lindis, what does the CSME involve and who is affected?
Okay, so thank you. The CSME is built on 5 core regimes. We have the free movement of capital, the free movement of goods, free movement of persons or skills, the right of establishment, and the free movement of services or the provision of services. And so with these 5 components, persons throughout CARICOM, they are afforded the opportunity to move to any of the participating member states to seek employment. And of course, like you mentioned, the CSME is built on economic activity, right? So therefore, persons are allowed to move only to provide services or to work. You're not just moving to relax and, be a burden on the country.
Okay. Right. Now the Ministry of Trade plays a key role in facilitating the benefits of this agreement. What is the role of the ministry, and how does the ministry facilitate the benefits of the Caribbean single market and economy?
Okay, the Ministry of International Trade is the focal point and competent authority for CSME related matters. And so persons who wishes to move to the Caribbean community, they must first acquire what we call a CARICOM Skills Certificate, or Certificate of Recognition of Caribbean Community Skills Qualification, in order to move. So moving under that regime is based on a skill, right? And some of the benefits of participating in the CSME, of course, again, we have a larger pool of jobs and other, benefits to the CSME.
Right, so it encourages intra-regional trade, and it allows the CARICOM states to negotiate as a single entity,
Right.
thus affording them a better opportunity to influence policies concerning global trade. Now, can you highlight the importance of working with stakeholders to allow the effect of the CSME? Because, we have the CSME and we have not achieved. I don't know how much of it we have achieved. I'm not able to say in terms of percentage, but there are some things that we have not achieved. Like we haven't, the economy aspect of it, the single currency and all of that, we have not yet achieved.
Right. We're yet to.
Okay, so what is the importance of working with stakeholders to allow the effect of the CSME?
Well, one of the importance of working with stakeholders is, of course, security. It's important that persons moving throughout the region, they're certified first of all, and certified to move freely and apply their trade, yes. But when it comes to security, that's one of the main issues that we have. For example, we have persons submitting fraudulent certificates and that kind of thing. And so in an effort to correct those measures, security is one of the main elements of the CSME.
Okay. Now, of course, like with any arrangement within CARICOM itself has been sometimes of a challenge. The CARICOM Skills Certificate, there are certain challenges with it.
Yes.
What categories of people are considered skilled? And what are some of the challenges that are faced with the skills certificate?
Okay. There are currently 10 approved category of movers. We have, first of all, the university graduates, and that category of movers, they are allowed to work in any field they wish to. So as a university graduate, you can work in any field. We have the media person category. We have sports persons. There's also a category for teachers and nurses. Those without university graduates, they would have acquired like a trained teacher certificate or the basic nursing certificate. There's also a category for associate degree holders. And the associate degree category speaks to a comparable qualification as well. So persons who would have had a post-secondary training for at least 2 years, they would also qualify. There's also a category for artisans with a Caribbean vocational qualification. So these are the skilled persons such as welders, contractors, and those kind of persons. So those are the persons who qualified. And of course, I forgot artists and musicians. So that's the 10 categories.
Okay, can I just say, well, look, I'm an artist or I'm a journalist and just apply for the skill certificate, or must I present something to show for it?
Right. There are a number of required documents in order to apply for the skills certificate. However, most of the categories for university graduates, of course, they're required to have at least a bachelor's degree and upward. And for the other categories, for example, such as the artists, musicians, and so forth, they just need to provide proof that they would have been serving in their specific fields for a period of time.
Okay.
Because there isn't always certification for these courses. But of course, if there's certification, persons can feel free to submit those as well.
Okay, before I move on to Mr. Philip Lindis, I will ask you one more question. What are some of the major challenges of the CSME? Or let me put it differently. What is the major challenge of the CSME?
I think from what we are seeing, fine, we would have had a number of countries sign on to the agreement. However, a lot of member states still they don't honor the agreement. So, for example, some of the major challenges we have, some member states, they don't honor skill certificates issued in other member states. And so, for example, when you go to those countries, you have to reapply, you have to go through the process again. And that's one of the major problems we are having in relation to the movement of persons.
Right, and the Caribbean has always had this problem of small island and big island and all of that sort of disparity. For example, a major challenge, as I have seen, is that the members of the CSME, especially smaller ones, are uncertain about whether their existing businesses and workforce can survive the increased competition when those that are more than those that are more successful enter the market. And we have that concern even right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We say, well, the Jamaicans are coming here and the people from Guyana are coming here. You know, can our workforce absorb them? What is going to happen to the local workforce and so on? Are they coming to take away our jobs and all that sort of a thing? We have all those issues, especially the smaller islands.
Yes.
And these are legitimate concerns.
Definitely. The perception is that, like you said, everybody is coming in for our jobs. But I would just want to encourage persons and, just to enlighten them, letting them know that this, the CSME is available for all the member states. It's available to all of us. And so while we have persons from other member states coming in, we also have the opportunity to go out. And I think it's about time that citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis take advantage of this opportunity. I know there have been a number of persons from St. Kitts and Nevis who would have applied for a skills certificate, and we know that they haven't gone anywhere. You understand? They're still here, yet on a daily basis we see persons coming in.
I have one, but I have never gone anywhere.
You're not ready as yet. You're not ready as yet. So we really would like to get the word out there. The CSME is available to all of us. It's not just for the Jamaicans, the Guyanese, and other persons. We can move as well.
Yeah, and I have mine for years. It's a very long, I think it's over 10, 15 years or something like that. Yeah. Now, good. And another thing, Lindis, that you did not mention is that people must take the opportunity to get certified.
Definitely.
That is so important.
Yes.
Because with certification, you can move.
Yes, definitely. And that is the thing with the CSME. As long as you're certified, and if I can speak to the category artisans with a Caribbean vocational qualification, and this is a passionate area for me because I see St. Kitts and Nevis, we're not yet equipped to issue the CVQs. And this CVQ is needed for the skilled persons, the plumbers, the contractors, and so forth, to be able to move and participate under this regime. You understand? However, what we are seeing is the influx of persons from Jamaica, for example. We know Jamaica have many vocational schools, and so their nationals are coming in CVQ certified, and you
Yes.
can't deny the application. As a matter of fact, they're actually coming with their skill certificate, so we just
Right.
have to verify. So again, I think it's something. It's an area where we ourselves, St. Kitts and Nevis, would need to, get to the issuance of the Caribbean vocational qualification, because I always say I do believe that this is the category of persons who will really move, be able to provide short-term services and so forth overseas and return home. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the rollout of this issuance of the CVQ certificates here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Right. Now, Mr. Philip, you are the director of the Department of Industry, Commerce and NED within the ministry. Can you give us an overview of the department?
All right. Well, the department is in fact industry and commerce. And I would allude to your earlier introduction when you reminded me that, yes, NEDO is actually a part of industry and commerce. When we look at industry and commerce, when we're talking about industry, and we're actually talking about the production of goods and related services within the economy, etc. And commerce is the exchange of the services and the goods. And so what we have is a system where there is trade, and we can't get away from the fact that industry and commerce is trade, right? And so what would have happened over the years is that it became necessary to look at some distinctions. We would have heard over the years, oh, well, the big businesses get everything and so on, and the big ones get all the support and whatnot. And so government in its wisdom saw it necessary to create a platform of support for the smaller enterprises that is supported, of course, by the Small Enterprise Development, the Small Business Development Act, actually, right? And whereas when we speak of industry in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a tendency to speak of the enclave sector, which we on the industrial estate and so on. However, that distinction allows for the smaller entities to get the same level of support that we would think is given to the larger entities, the enclave sector under the Fiscal Incentive Act. As far as that is concerned, in terms of what we do for the services and so on, that I would have Mr. Delaney speak to more of, other than to say that NED, which is evolving, is one of the flagship activities of the business sector and the ministry, right? On the other hand, we are actually focusing and trying to pay much more attention to that area which we refer to manufacturing, we call manufacturing, which we saw as the enclave sector. But with the advent of things like the National Manufacturing Strategy of 2014, it was a 6-year strategy, 2014 to 2020, the focus is to broaden that base and to ensure that our smaller manufacturers, local indigenous manufacturers, are also brought into the realm of support, activities and policies and so on are organized to ensure that they too can reach the point where I guess they would export and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, the department works in collaboration with the private sector. The private sector, of course, is referred to as the engine of growth in the economy. How does the work of the department affect the private sector?
Well, in actual fact, we can relate to our local situation here. We know that when we say private sector, some people would immediately think of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce and those businesses. But as I would have mentioned, we see our private sector as our SMEs as well, our small, medium, and small, micro, medium enterprises, right? And so therefore, the systems and the regimes that are put in place to provide support to that particular sector is in fact bringing them on the level, on the same platform, and ensuring that we not only have hobbies, people doing business as hobby, but businesses that are changing people's lives, improving the standard of living, and in fact contributing to our economy, as in the case of the manufacturing. When we speak to manufacturing, which contributes about 6 or 7% of our GDP.
Now, part of your role as a department is to sensitize the private sector on trade matters. Now, of course, with trade matters, you have issues of market access and all of that.
Right, and as I indicated, because of our close relationship with the business community, so to speak, we are in fact the liaison between government and the private sector. Our governments, of course, would sign on to a number of treaties, a number of different things. We just heard of the CSME and the movement of business and people and whatnot and so on. And so, yes, our role as in industry and commerce is one where we see that business community as actually our clientele and anything that is happening. So we have to be au fait with matters of trade policies,
Right.
and we make that link. We provide that information. We give you an idea what's happening in the export markets and so on. So therefore, as I would have said, well, really and truly, we want to make sure that even our smaller manufacturers have the same information as the large manufacturers,
Sure.
and so that they can access the markets as well.
Okay. Now, Mr. Delaney, you're the small businessman.
Correct.
Okay, so it's small business
Development Center.
development centers.
Correct.
Now, how important are small businesses to the growth of the economy?
Of course, small business are very, very vital to the growth, as we've been hearing all around. Is worldwide phenomenon in terms of small business or entrepreneurs, the engine for growth worldwide. And it's no different here in St. Kitts and Nevis, where that's why so much emphasis is placed on the small business development through the Act and provisions that are made through the ministry to ensure that small business on a whole are given that support to push themselves forward.
Okay, so part of your role basically is to offer support to small businesses. Now, what are some of the challenges that you have discovered that small businesses face?
One of the main thing that comes to me right off the bat is the how do small businesses handle their finances. I think that's a pet peeve for a lot of small businesses in terms of the management, the record keeping. We try to emphasize that a lot in terms of the record keeping. We realize that the lack of they won't be able to access financing, whether from the bank or even from an angel investor. They won't be able to have a true and clear picture of how the business is actually doing. Many small business owners, that's not their primary job as well. So what you see that perhaps their weekly salary is mixed with their side job, and they don't have a true reflection of actually how the business is doing. And you always hear the terminology, if the dance can't pay for the lights, might as well you close down. So I mean, a lot of the businesses are probably running at a loss and not even knowing that, because they're not their finances are not in order. So I think
Right, so the management
correct.
of these small businesses leaves something to be desired.
Exactly.
Now, in terms of, you have identified that as a problem. Now, how do you support small businesses to have better management, especially financial management, as you mentioned?
What we have done and continue to do, we, as Mr. Brown said, we are transitioning, and that the transition is actually led to SBDC. SBDC is a global network, and what we have done, we have focused a lot on training. Actually, last last month we had a training with Alex Strong on financing at the ITC Center, and we continue to train and retrain. When persons come in for duty free concession or business plan, we emphasize the different aspects, not only finances, but the different aspects of their business that needs to be up to speed. Ensure that they get training, use that as a mandatory platform. Hey, if you want us to continue processing your application, these are some of the steps you have to come to. So you're not just, you just come in, get your concession and you leave. No, we ensure that we give them a hand-holding session in terms of, okay, hi, we having this set of training coming on, we expect you to be there. If not, you know, your application could be on hold until, you know, so we don't give them concession and let them go on their way. We ensure that they have the necessary skills and tools so that they can make that next step in terms of their business career.
So we not only want small businesses, we want well-managed small businesses.
That's correct.
Successful business people.
That's correct.
So do you offer things like, because part of business includes people.
Right.
And it's a service that you're offering, goods and services. And you want quality. The customer wants quality.
Right.
Part of the what I have seen sometimes in terms of the delivery of goods and services is that there's very, very poor business communication. There's very, very poor customer service.
Right. Well, glad you said that, Mr. Bowen. Watch me and smile, because on May 16th, I'll make a plug now. On May 16th, we have Dr. Christine Walwyn. She'll be delivering free training, free workshop from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the ITC Center on customer training, customer service. We have done customer service, I think, late last year with youths from within the STEP program. And again, we're offering that service again because we realize that we are in a service-oriented environment, and lack of service. And actually, if you do research, businesses are now competing on a customer service basis, not on price, not on quality, but on customer service. Even on the internet, where you don't see people, you go on Amazon, and at the end, when you press click, send, you have something saying, a small service saying, you know, how do you rate our service? And that's customer service, right? So businesses are now competing on a customer service basis more than any other platform, whether it be finance, whether it be price, whether it be the quality of your service. So again, we realize the importance of customer service. So
Yes.
you hit the nail on the head.
Right, because I've had my own experiences. The other day, I think it was sometime last week, I like spinach, so I had to buy spinach. I went down to the market and I wanted spinach. There was spinach there. But the lady sat there and she would not even ask me anything, you know, what would you like or anything like that. So I said, I see the spinach, but I said, I would like to have some spinach. She said, you ain't see the spinach there? And I'm like, really?
She didn't marry them with
And then she went on to, you know, but the spinach there, I said, well, I wanted you to give me some attention. You know, I wanted you to give me some attention.
Right. And that's exactly right. As I said, businesses are now competing on that platform. So perhaps if a stall was next door or next, you probably would have gone to the next stall.
Somebody's going to go some spinach and show you.
Right. So, I mean, these are the things that we adhere to and understand that training and retooling the small businessmen and women is very, very important if we're going to move forward in the entrepreneurial world. Because again, we think that we compete against our neighbor, but we compete globally now. You know, we as persons now can go on any website and click on a button. They have their goods within a week. You know, what will stand out for you to buy local opposed to going online and shopping or waiting until somebody travel to bring back home something for you. So it's very important that we understand these little things that can make a big difference.
So we're talking in terms of standards.
Again, as I said, standards, we are working closely with the Bureau of Standards. Again, once you compete regionally, internationally, you have to have labeling and that sort of thing. So that again is an important attribute once it comes to your product. And as Mr. Brown alluded to, we want to ensure that the small manufacturers get up to speed with the bigger manufacturers, and labeling is a very, very key important.
That's right. Mr. Devin Richardson, who works within the Department of Consumer Affairs. In fact, he's a project officer at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Mr. Richardson, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Okay, good. We'll start with you, right away.
That's why I'm here.
Okay. Now, can you give us an overview, maybe, of the Department of Consumer Affairs? When people hear the Department of Consumer Affairs, what should come to mind?
Complaint, goods, services.
Uh-huh.
Many persons shop and you wonder, suppose I buy an item and I don't want it or it's damaged. What is next? Where do I go? That's where the word consumer comes into place.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's a consumer. Even yourself is a consumer because you do shop on a weekly or a daily basis.
Right.
It's a small department. We have the director, Mr. Paul Quilly. And my job basically there is I have a small team that goes out in the field on a daily basis. And we collect prices within the food basket. And we also do inspection. And you wonder, inspection? Inspection of what? We do inspection of the items that are sold on the shelf. You have to look for the expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at sell by and best by date. You have to look at goods that are dented, rusty. My job is to make sure that they're not sold to consumer.
Okay. So, an important role you play in terms of consumer rights.
That's right.
Consumers have rights, and consumers must be educated in terms of what they consume.
Exactly.
Should things be on the shelf? This is an English country. Should things be on the shelf that are only in Mandarin?
Items that are sold here in St. Kitts has to be in English. That is our language. It can be in English and
Another
Chinese
language.
and another language. But we must be able to read it. If we can't read it, it's not supposed to be sold.
I have seen things only in Chinese.
Well, I could tell as much. I have taken off stuff that are only in Chinese. With the help of health department, right? We are actually on the ball of doing that.
And it's not only Chinese, if it is only in Spanish.
Yeah. You see, one of the things that our culture is a sort of increasing where foreign investment are here. But at the same time, the law speaks about English. So that trumps your foreign investment. So you must come to the English language.
So I
and
must
do
know
business.
what I am consuming,
Exactly.
basically.
Exactly.
I must be able to read and to know what product it is that I am buying.
Exactly.
Because then if I am to consume something, I don't want to be consuming something and I can't even read what is on the can
Exactly.
or on the
Allergic to
bottle.
something.
I might be allergic to something inside there and so on. And especially now we're in a very health conscious society and so on. Now, what is done by the department to educate? Because it's one thing that you would go out and you will do inspections and that you would, do various checks and all of that. But what is done by the department to educate the consumer on their rights?
Well, the consumer have a few rights. We just recently launched our week of activity, and we have been to the primary school and the high school. As a matter of fact, just last week there, I visited the Washington Archibald School, and it was very interactive. The children asked a lot of good questions, and I was amazed, which means that they are aware of what is going on, and they were surprised. One of the things that shocked them was something called dual pricing, which means that you may go and you may buy an item, and you have two price. The consumer have the right to pay for the lowest price. Now, if the cashier, as we all call him, refuse, what you do, you pay the full price, bring your receipt, which is your legal document, to the consumer department, which is located at Bladen, and then I myself or another colleague will go and visit that establishment, because I now have proof that this item was purchased from your establishment with two prices, and you refuse to allow the consumer to pay for the lower price. So that's one aspect there that I covered, and I try to educate the person on top of it. As a matter of fact, it's in the revised act of the 2009, right? And I encourage businesses to go and get a copy of it so they can be familiar, right? Another way, we have our Facebook page that we use to encourage people to go and like it. There are stuff there that we do. Sometimes you find that if you go out in the supermarket, there are things that like, for example, Pampers. We have found that the businesses now are taking the Pampers out of the sack, putting them in their own plastic and selling them. Now, Pampers have an expiration date, right? But we, as the consumer, have to be more smart. We look at it that we're saving our pocket, but what about the health of your child? You're putting a pamper on your baby that it expire, and then you wonder what happened to your baby, right? So we continue educating the public on these things, on their rights, the right to educate themselves, the right to be responsive, the right to shop smart, right? We have SKN Shopper app, which is very, very useful. We just had a relaunch of it, and what this does is you can now stay home, use your smartphone, and know who have the cheapest item. So you know how long I have to run to Rams, run to Valimart, run to the Chinese? No, you stay right at home. You type in tuna, if you're a lover of tuna, and you have different brands, you have the starfish, the buns, and you can see who have it the cheapest.
Okay. Now that app is kept up to date. How
Yeah.
often?
Every week.
Every week. So every week you go out and you do your inspection in terms of pricing and all of that, and then you update the app.
Update the app.
So people will have the most current information.
The current information.
Okay.
But bear in mind, it's not everything in the supermarket that goes into the app. It's only the items that are in the food basket.
in the food basket,
Yes.
those things in the food basket.
Yes.
Now you mentioned a very important point in terms of the receipt being the legal proof of the consumer. Now, I was speaking to Mr. Delaney a while ago, and many small businesses do not provide you with that legal proof of receipt, proof of purchase. The proof of purchase. So I go to a retail, a small shop in my village, and I buy something. I am not given a receipt. If I discover for some reason that what I bought is faulty, and I go back to the shop, the person can say, well, look, you didn't buy it here. I am taking it. And what will I really have to defend myself to say that this is where I actually bought it?
Well, there are cases.
So it's a matter of just, maybe it's just good faith?
Yeah. Well,
Is that enough?
I've had cases where that have happened, and well, luckily there are cameras in supermarkets now, and some small shop that we can ask them to review the camera. You know, we can only trust and hope that the persons who are making the complaint have some kind of evidence. Maybe not a person who actually saw them there. There might be a frequent shopper, right? And that helps to build a case, because we don't want to feel because you don't have a receipt, it ends there, right? We can fight the case for you still. It makes it harder, more challenging, but we can fight the case still.
Right.
because that's your right.
It's certainly, because there are challenges that we still have. For example, pricing. We don't seem to have no sort of a standardization in terms of pricing. I mean, I can just move from one shop in McKnight that sells something for $10, and I go into the heart of Bastille, and somebody else has the same item and they're selling it for $20. There's such great disparity. Have you found that out when you say you're going out and looking for different prices and all this? Have you found that out? For example, supermarkets, there's a big disparity in terms of one supermarket with the other supermarket. And I know you can say, well, look, we're in the marketplace and, this is all about, competition and all of that. But don't some people go too high?
To be honest, because we do the price collection, right? Most of the price that I collect, they are not too far of a difference. You find like it might be $2.49, the other one might be $2.60. It's not too much. It's a couple cents. But if there is an item that is way out, you can report that to the consumer department because there's a markup price that the customer, right, can fight for because it's not supposed to go over that markup price. And what we do here at the consumer, we have access to customs, so we get the invoice and we can work it out and see if it's really out of the ordinary. And then we'll go to the business and say, well, excuse me, I noticed that your milk, right, is way over. Also, market have milk between the price of $2 to $4.
Right.
Yours is $7.
Right.
Why? Right, and then he'll have to answer because it could be maybe the shipment, maybe he got it from a different shipment, right? So these are things that we have to work out. But it's a very good question because it always come like people say, oh, this price is too high. Mr. So why you not doing anything? They cheap, but they have the right to go up or go down on the prices. But once they fall within that 20% markup.
Right. Now, what are some of the possible actions taken by the department when businesses do not comply? When they're non-compliant?
Well, basically, we have the act and we outline when the act they have breached it, and we'll ask them to, not continue with such. If the customer have to be refunded, then he or she will be refunded, right? But there's some new things coming on stream that will fix that problem. But for now, right, it's more of a business transaction, and you sit down and you talk and you're like, hey, this is wrong, you're breaching the act. But in terms of having a fine and so, we have not have in this act.
Right.
But there's some new thing coming on stream, which gonna rule out all of that.
Now, you spoke about, for example, going and finding expired goods, expired food on shelves in supermarkets and so on. I know what some people do is that when you have different names of sell by this date and best by this date and expired and so on. I don't know if people know the difference.
Yeah.
I suppose that would be one of your undertakings of trying to educate people. What it means when it's something expired. What does it mean when it says sell by this date or best before this date and so on? These are all terminologies.
Yes, sir.
For the consumer. But at the very same time, what I have found is that people don't take things off the shelf. The date may have passed, but what they do is that they lower the price of the product. You see, so you can have something that is expired, or the date, the sell by date has passed. But at the very same time, what they do is that they don't take it off the shelf. They will still sell it to you, sometimes at a reduced price. Is that acceptable?
It's not acceptable. But what I've found, just let me explain quickly. Usually, the item have to have on to sell by and expire, or best by and expiration date. Best by mean by this date, the item will not taste the same. After this date, right, it start to change. Maybe the color start to fade, the chemical, whatever inside of it, start to break down. So it's not gonna be 100%, but it's safe to eat.
It is still safe.
It is
to
still
eat.
safe to eat. But what is important is the expiration date, because it's not expired. What is saying that you can sell it by this date, but it's not gonna be 100%, but it is safe to consume. Expiration date is the most important. If you expire. There's a people like to say after expire, after 3 months after, it's still good. That's a theory that persons use. It's not correct. Right? Scientists have said, because we have to understand that these things that are coming tin, right, is a processed food. And what they're saying that this is the lifelong of it. After this date, it's no longer good to consume.
Especially with medicine.
Well, I could tell them much with yogurt and those stuff. Persons are very careful with that, but other things, persons tend to take a chance. And we're here to educate the public to stop taking chance, because you're gonna get sick. You're gonna go to the doctor, right? And then doctor can't find out what happened to you, and then you'll say doctor cheating you because he's giving medication that is not working, but you don't know what happened to you. You understand? So the other thing that you have to be careful with the expiration date. It is very important. And once it expires, now, and they can sell an item. If it expires today, they can still sell it for the whatever price they like, because the day haven't passed. Usually what I find, a lot of supermarkets are now doing, within the week, they lower the price to get rid of it, which is, they have the right to do that.
Yes.
Right? But after the date, it's not supposed to be sold. But remember, we only work from Monday to Friday.
But you heard what I told you. What is being done? I understand, you know that I see Best Buy doing it. For example, something is going to be expired. Let's, for example, some coal meats that they are going to expire in 3 days, 4 days, and then they would lower the price so that people can buy it and so on. That's a different thing to when the thing is already expired. You have that happening too,
But
and
if
the price is lowered after it is expired.
They're not supposed to. So if you buy it, come to me. I come to the department with your receipt and send me Mr. Richardson. I purchase this meat, and now reach home, it's expired. And I take it back, ask for a refund. You can get your full money back, or you can get an exchange.
Right.
One of the above is your choice. Your full money back, on exchange of the goods.
Okay.
Or you could take something else within that price range. It could be lower, right? If you go over, then you put on the rest money. So you're covered by the Consumer Act.
Okay. Now that brings me to another question. Of course, your relationship with other stakeholders and so on, because you would work closely with the Bureau of Standards. We're talking about standards here, and you'll work along with the Ministry of Health, I suppose, as well.
Yes, we do.
What are some other critical new ministries that you work with? So you work with health. Within the Ministry of International Trade, you will work along with the Bureau of Standards.
Yeah, the Bureau of Standards, what we do, we work along with them to check the gas prices. And we also do the weight of the scales, right? We got to make sure, because for example, sometimes they say gas goes up and comes down, right? And some person say, why is it? So we want to make sure that you are selling the gas at the price that you're supposed to sell it to, right?
Okay.
So that's where the Bureau of Standards and us
Okay, and then I'm joined by Mr. Aaron O'Dane, who was here sometime shortly, who is at the Bureau of Standards, and he is head of metrology, and he's also a senior officer at the Department of the St. Kitts and Nevis Bureau of Standards. And of course, what they do is really intertwined with a lot of this whole thing in terms of standards.
Yeah.
Small businesses and
Labeling.
standards, the Department of Consumer Affairs and standards, even in terms of trade and policy and so on, in terms of standards. So I'm going to ask you, Mr. O'Dane, in terms of the Bureau of Standards. What is the role of the Bureau of Standards in ensuring that goods traded are of high international and even regional standards?
Okay. First of all,
Because we're in a global market now.
thank you for inviting the Bureau of Standards back again. The director, Mr. Stuart Laplace, should have been here, but he's overseas on duty. So, to answer your question, well, first of all, to get the real meat of what the Bureau of Standards do, I would advise the audience to look at the interview that you did with us a while back. Go online and look for that. You get a lot more information.
Yeah, but in a nutshell,
But I'll
tell
try
us.
to put it in a nutshell what we do. So the Bureau of Standards offer services in metrology, standardization, microbiology, chemistry, and also air quality. We all of this comes together to form what is known as a quality infrastructure. And what the quality infrastructure does is that it guarantees that goods that are traded meet both the international, regional, and local standards, and that they are safe for human consumption, the environment, and you have the consumer is protected and have some guarantee that they are getting their money's worth. Mr. Richardson alluded to the verification of the fuel pumps. So what we do is that we work alongside consumer affairs to ensure that the fuel pumps are verified. That if someone said they're paying $10 for a gallon of gas, when they go to the pump, they're actually getting the $10. They're actually getting the gallon. We also with supermarkets to ensure that if you buy a pound of potato, you're actually getting a pound of potato. In terms of standardization, we're currently working on some both non-voluntary and voluntary standards. Now the difference between most standards are voluntary. But what we're trying to do is that we realize that there are certain issues that the society at large having, especially in the area of labels, and there are certain trends, global trends, that SINKIS cannot be left behind in as it relates to the environment and as it relates to energy. So we have an energy building code standard that we're about to that will be signed into law after we've gone through the recognized best practices by the minister. We also have a labeling standard that would ensure that prepackaged goods, prepackaged foods meet the regional labeling standard. We have a few other standards that we are also working on.
Okay, especially in this climate of trade and international trade, Lindis, of course, you can underscore the importance of standards and quality in terms of trade. We are talking about the CSME, and the CSME has been a vehicle for intra-regional trade, the movement of people, the movement of goods and the services, and the movement of capital, and all of that. We're talking about trade and not just trade, but standards and quality with respect to trade. And I suppose that the Bureau of Standards would work along closely with you, and of course there are other Caribbean organizations, like the Caribbean Regional Organization on Standards and Quality. You're aware of that, right?
Yes,
CrossQ.
yes.
Right, so good. Now, in terms of how is that going, by the way?
I will have Mr. What do you
Repeat the last part.
CrossQ.
How is the relationship between
Yes,
us
and CrossQ, yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, CrossQ is a regional organization for standards and quality. And a lot of the capacity building that we have received over the years was through CrossQ, through funding by the EDF, the European Development Fund.
Yeah.
There was a 9, then there's a 10, and now there's a 11 that comes on stream. Because the main fact is that the cost to get the capacity of the Bureau of Standards up to where we are is enormous, and the Bureau of Standards, the government basically cannot really afford in terms to give the training. So in terms of training and guidance, we could, for example, developing the labeling standard. This is an enormous process to develop a standard. It takes years to develop a standard, and then you still have to review it. And through CrossQ, we didn't have to go and develop the standard. We just would adopt regional standards. They provide us with access to training in metrology, which is the science of measurement, in standardization, in conformity assessment, which is basically ensuring that the goods and services meet the standards. They provide us with training also in accreditation, so that we would understand the whole process of accreditation, both auditing a system that should be accredited and also ourselves striving to get the accreditation. So it's a lot of training that we receive through CrossQ. We have a good relationship with the other directors and the other staff through the NMIs. So if we have an issue, we could ask Jamaica, for example. We have an issue with bottled water. You had a similar issue a few months ago. How you dealt with it? So we could always get advice. So CrossQ has provided that vehicle for us to have a good network of communication with the other Caribbean countries as it relates to standards.
Right, and you see, everything today we are talking about standards and quality because we are living in a highly competitive world. And in order to be competitive, you must be at the top of your game. You must be at the top of your game, otherwise, you're going to be left behind. Now we are going to go to the phone lines. There are people who want to ask you questions. The numbers to call are the local number 465-2555. That's the local number 465-2555. And the overseas number is 1-718-577-2916. That is 1-718-577-2916. We await your calls. Working for you, good afternoon.
That's why you're hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, my buddy. It's working for all of us in this country, Papa.
Okay.
That's why.
Yes.
I want to speak to the people who represent the CARICOM community. What do you call it?
The CSME?
The CSME, exactly. Ladies and gentlemen on the program, we having a serious problem here. We welcome the neighboring islands, because all of us got to work as a block. Because one don't recognize years ago that we got to work as a block to get investment into the Caribbean. But when we have been seen in the Court of Conscience, that's why it's some young women coming mainly from the north, and they're selling a kind of thing and go down well with jam down in St. Kitts, because these young girls in St. Kitts, we got to protect them, and that ain't a part of us. And I'm asking these young people in your panel to explain it properly to youngsters in this country. Because young people ain't going down there, They go down there to study, but we welcome everybody. But this kind of behavior when we get in some of these young girls coming from the north, they're going to tolerate it. He's not going to tolerate it. I had the opportunity the other night, let's why, in the Court of Conscience, and a young one come there from the north trying to impress some taxi men. And I was so ashamed at that young girl. Think it's men don't tolerate them kind of things, If we got the coin, we'll tolerate that very few. And I'm warning that young lady, if she hearing me, that ain't gonna work here, That ain't gonna work here. Anyway, that's why I want to move on. You got the people there for consumer affairs as well, right?
Yes.
we having a problem, consumer affairs people, because tourism dragging the foot with this. And I am part of this country. And I love tourism. And we're not going to allow people to come here and disrespect the visitors there. When the port is tough, it's safe. It's happening down here in Port Granted. And I ask you all don't get complaints, you know. Because the certain sergeant told me that visitors approach her about it. And she complained to IO and I shut it down. Well, this is a thriving country in tourism. A country that got St. Thomas and Antigua headhunting them. And please, I do Iowa.
Okay.
Visit the port and do Iowa. Have a good day. Let's watch.
Okay,
Working to all of us, Papa.
Okay, jam down. Have a good day too. Working for you, good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon.
Services provided. The standard query, or for instance, like the telephone or cable TV, when they don't supply the services that you are paying for, they don't notify the customers that there's problems, so you're guessing if it's your phone or your TV. You know, they need to be looked at a little closely, like the food products as well, because you're paying for those services and you're not getting them. The other question regarding economy-size products, is the Consumer Affairs looking at that a little bit closer, because the supermarkets are selling economy-size products for double the size, and usually you get a discount when you buy economy size. Those are items I have questions on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to the good people here from Consumer Affairs.
Good afternoon.
Now, a little input to you all this afternoon. Now, when I go into different go different shop, groceries, our shop, our supermarket, or whatever, I find the price them that be different. I want to know how consistent the Consumer Affairs does go on. As often as they go on and check those people. Because sometimes you go by the supermarket, you find the price different. You go by the next supermarket, you find the next different. You go by this shop, you find the price different. And I just want to know how consistent and often you all just go and check these prices. Because I think it is bad that every time by the supermarket, and all of them paying the same tax, and all of them paying the same money. You know, and they buy the things and put the same price. So we know, as the consumer who go out there and buy these things, I believe sometimes we don't get big time rip off. Because you cannot go in a supermarket and buy this for that, and then when you go in the next supermarket, it's a different price. I believe everything's supposed to be the same. All right then.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anything to say to what the callers had to say?
Well, let me just jump in quick. Since he spoke to the consumer, he spoke to different prices, and I spoke to that earlier. It's a business. If everybody sell for the same price, there's no competition. And to be competitive, some persons tweak their price. So some persons sometimes they lower it. It's a business. You'll find if a stock is going out, sometimes they take down the price to make room for incoming stock. So different prices, I really cannot
Mr. Richardson, that is not the issue. The issue is it's not just about different prices. It is when you have these great disparities in price. So
Well,
nobody's talking about something is 50 cents more or $1 more.
But
But
if
I
it-
think I gave
yeah.
you an example earlier.
Yeah, well, for example, in the countryside or the rural area versus in the Bastille, right, you will see a difference because those in the rural will incur for traveling, right?
Or they
So-
will put in something for the gas.
Yeah, for traveling, right? But what you spoke about in terms of something way out, and like I say, I can't sit here and say what you're saying, right, is correct. But if something is way out of proportion, you have to bring it to the consumer. So you just can't say, hey, an item is too expensive, because we have to work it out to see if they breach the market price.
listen, sometimes I go to buy some, and you know, this is a criticism really. People are making local, what they call local juices. You think I should be paying $5 for swank? What we call swank? You think I should be paying $5 for that?
But that is your choice. That's what I'm saying. You as a consumer are helping these businesses to keep going on. Because you have a choice and you choose to continue to buy it.
But we have to hold them to some sort of a standard. But at the very same time, I am saying what is the, if we're talking about standards, we're talking about quality. And sometimes, you know, what you have in the local market is neither of standard nor quality.
But you see, you might call it swang, somebody might love it. Because your taste bud is different to other people.
Oh,
Mr.
really
Williams.
now?
Oh yes, Mr. Williams.
Just to jump in there, because just to jump in there, currently the ministry have been working on regulations for both the Bureau of Standards when it comes to standards, and as well as I think regulations for consumer affairs as well. This is not an easy process. It's a long process. So some of the issues that once these regulations come into enforcement, should smooth them out. There can always exist some sort of disparity when it comes to quality and so forth. But the government is taking steps. It takes time. You have to get consultation. You have to get the right technical persons to come in so that you ensure that when we pass a regulation and we say we don't want people selling juice that tastes like swank, that we don't disenfranchise anybody. But at the same time, we guarantee that as a consumer, you're buying juice, you're getting juice and not swank.
And you've made a very, very, very good point. It is true that consumers have choices. We all have choices to make as consumers. But at the very same time, there comes a point when sometimes the choices that people in society are making is impacting so negatively on the society. Look at us. NCDs, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and all of that sort of a thing. These are coming from foods that are imported and for which we are consuming. Now, he made a point in terms of regulation. Now, I believe that the Ministry of Health is in the process of looking at sugar-added beverages. You know, beverages where you have sugar added to them, and more looking at those beverages where there's no added sugar. No added sugar. And the reason for that, why? People might say, well, it's my business. I can drink as much swank as I want. But at the very same time, if so many people's drinking it, you have a health hazard, and you have a concern and a drain on the government, on human resources, loss in productivity, and all of that sort of a thing. So you know, families are affected because people are getting sick in terms of what they consume, where sometimes you have to bring regulation.
And you know, just to add to what my colleague is saying in terms of standard. In a short presentation I did, one student asked me, well, they basically said that having a label on this local drink, she don't see it making any sense. She has seen it as like we're trying to give the people more work to do. And I explained to her that some persons make their local beverage with Essent. Now, if I'm allergic to Essent and I don't know, I can be affected. So it's important, right, for you to have your labeling on your local juice so persons can actually see and read what they are about to consume.
Right. Now we speak about in terms of the consumers. And this is the Ministry of Trade. What about the manufacturers? Because you can't have trade with just consumers. It's both manufacturers and consumers. Right. How are you impacting the manufacturers? Because at the very same time, it's the manufacturers who are producing goods that must be of a certain standard and quality.
Absolutely. If I were to jump in there, because that is exactly what I was about to say. Some choices should not be available to us. You say we have choices, but some should not be available. But that comes down to a responsible society where there are responsible laws, regulations, and standards in place. So as you said, the Bureau of Standards, and we work closely with them as well, because the ministry and the various departments are so interlocked and intertwined. Somebody was smart in putting them together. But the manufacturers would have to abide by particular standards so that the products that are made available to our people are healthy. In terms of pricing, they're well priced, etc. So I totally agree that it comes down, and a lot of times we are struggling with some of the regulations. We do have some laws, some legislation where we don't have any regs, but that is something that we are working on as we speak, and I think Mr. Richardson would have hinted to it. So it is something that we are doing and working on as we speak.
Delaney.
Also, too, what we find happening as well too is a lot of the manufacturers are in the informal sector, so we don't even know who they are. We see something pop up and we want to know, well, who is the owner or where this product come from. So you find that, regulating these new entities, they might pop up for 2 weeks or a month or thereabout. They go in hiding, and then when maybe come music festival or carnival time, you see them pop up again, and that sort of thing. So many businesses are in the informal sector, so you can't get a grip as to who is behind these products as well.
You made a good point, as Paul Keane Douglas say. Everybody turn cook when it's carnival and Christmas and sports day. Everybody turn cook. But at the very same time, there are certain things that must be in place. What about food handlers permit? Do you check? Did you all check for those things?
Health department.
The health department. You work with the health department.
Yes, I've seen them in a music festival. There was an incident last year where but they do go around quickly. They speak about cable and flow and the services. Usually, when the service is down, right, they usually sends out a text message, right.
Just to interrupt you, we have a call. Working for you. Good afternoon.
That's right.
Yes.
This is Jam down again, I want to know if the consumer feels because he's headed by Lindsay Grant is not answering the question down about the port.
What was his question?
What is that?
The last time they've been on the show, that question called from me, and the says it out.
We didn't get the question.
What is the question? Can you re-ask it?
Please.
Can you please re-ask the question?
Yeah, he was speaking. I was trying to wait for the question. He was just speaking, but
we're talking about
I have an idea.
We
don't know what the question is.
I don't know the question. But
well, he didn't ask a question.
Yeah,
so you
for
can't
the
answer.
for the cable on the floor, like I said, I know that there's no text message, but in the case that you're paying a monthly, you're subscribed for a package, and for some reason this service been out for a period of time, right? Sometimes you get a discount. If you don't, that can be reported because you're not getting what you're paying for, right?
Okay.
So for that's for the cable on the floor. Someone call it and speak about the economy size items, and sometimes the price is different. That's something you can also draw to our attention, and we can see. But I've been in supermarket where you'll find the smaller item and the bigger item are the same, right? I brought it to the attention of the owner, and they've made the adjustment. Because you have to understand that sometimes there are persons on the floor who does their shelf make mistake.
Okay.
Right?
Working for you. Good afternoon.
Dropped.
The call dropped.
In terms of the prices, like I said, this will always be a challenge. Because even before I went into the government, I used to wonder why is it prices are different. But when you actually, and now I'm now in the system, so I'm learning more how it goes, right? You have to bring this thing to our attention. You find sometimes somebody complain, and they say, Mr. Richardson, I want to tell you, but I don't want to tell you who the supermarket is. No. Come with a valid complaint. There's a document that you fill out, right? Especially sometimes phone. You go, you buy a phone, or you go to repair a phone, is that fixed properly? That also is a complaint. If you go to any store and you buy an item, and when you leave, it damaged, you're supposed to get your money back.
Yeah. One of the things I realize sometimes you can't get your money back. People have to realize the importance of that receipt.
Like the receipt.
If you don't have a receipt, you can't get your money back, you know.
And I'll tell this much.
You
I just
leave
had to
yourself
make a
very
complaint.
vulnerable.
There was a supermarket, not to name the supermarket, and the receipt was faded. And it was reported to the Inland Revenue Department, who dealt with it.
Working for you, good afternoon.
That's right.
Yes, Jam down.
I asked me questions, you know. I know whether they were listening. I asked, why is it they're coming down here and checking out these stores? They're selling people fake jewelry. That's why I asked.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yes.
you now ask the question.
Yes, we do visit the stores down there, because there are instances where items are sold that are, as we say, fake. Right? You might find that they might put the hibiscus and something that, and they say it's from here, and it's not from here. That's a breach. That's a breach. Right? So these are things that we deal with. But like I say, a lot of these things, right, people need to bring these complaints, right? Which store? Is there a particular store? Is it all the store? Right? Because I don't have the manpower to send the whole staff out to Port Zante, which have many stores, right? So if persons can, now down the list, say, this particular store have this particular item, right? Then I can send somebody, I myself can visit them and see if what they are accusing the business of is accurate.
So people must be specific.
They must be specific. It helps.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a long process and going and asking, and then, sometimes persons get hint that, hey, the consumer coming, and then they hide the items.
I see.
I've been in the supermarket, and when they saw me pull up, they start going to the back with cats.
Right.
And I have to stop them.
Right. So it's all a part of the deceit.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, of course, we work with regional bodies in terms of trade and so on. But working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Jazzy D. Good afternoon to your panelists here, Carl Brown here. And good afternoon to the listening public home and abroad. So, one, you all talking about getting money back. What you all are not telling the public that many of the businesses in town have a policy that they don't give back money. They want you to take something to the price of whatever money that they are going to reimburse back to you. Many, about 99% of the business in St. Kitts Nevis do not return money, even though it's their fault. So what the consumer department is going to do about that, because suppose I don't want anything, I want the money to go somewhere because of whatever mistake or fault of that company or business. They don't give that money. The other point is what we call the turn hand. These wholesales sell a lot of different things. These people with what we call trays and sell out of their little can, the little bus, and the little cart and thing. No, they go and they buy the stuff that is near expired because they are turning the business. Do you all check these little carts and little trays and little cards and so for selling with the public expired snacks and other things like that too? Because they do go to the businesses and buy stuff them where is near expired to turn hands are gone.
Yes, quickly, under the Consumer Act, page 17, 19, it speaks about option of consumer who reject goods. And it simply said there, where the consumer exercises the rights to reject goods, he or she may choose to have either a refund or any money paid or other consideration provided by him or her in respect of the goods or the good of the same type of similar value to replace the rejected goods where such goods are reasonable, available to the supplier or part of the stock of the supplier, and the supplier shall make provision accordingly. To make it simpler, right, and in simple terms, that yes, there are instances where persons, it's a business, they don't want to lose money, right? But you have the right. You have the right to say, hey, because for example, if I go and I buy a tuna and it's not good, I wouldn't feel comfortable buying another tuna. So I may say, hey, I don't want it because this product is not good, right? You can't convince me that yes, the others are good. So I say, hey, I need my money back. They have to give your money back. Or I can say, hey, I don't want the tuna, I'm going to use the beef instead, right? But once you know your rights of consumer, right, you can push forward. He also spoke about Chase, person that sells, right? We can't visit everybody. A lot of the small shop we don't get to go to.
Hold it right there. Working for you, good afternoon.
Working for you, let's why. This is Jam Down again. Let's why.
Yes, Jam Down.
Want the consumers, people to know that the CSME, the Caribbean people them come into think it and they change the whole dynamic are doing things. And you know, working think it, you know, they're going to fall in line with what these old people live here. What Carl talking about is the truth. People selling stuff and the stuff them is what we call old stuff. You understand? And they ain't working thinking. Please, I asking the consumers to come out the office and do the government work. Come out the office because people is talking about oil, especially down in the China places them.
Okay.
People is talking and it's hurting.
Okay, Jam Down.
And I don't think we can watch it for too long.
Okay.
Please, I have do a good job. All kinds of people coming into the country and doing as they like. The citizens, they don't just sit back in Lawrence and watch.
Okay, Jam Down. Let's not. There are some people who are right from here and doing as they like as well. So let's not go down that road, please.
And I mean,
we are welcoming to foreigners in this country.
Yes. You see, towards what the caller is saying, that you see I have a schedule here that I have post and goes out. But one of the problems is that we are the problem ourselves. Because we know that these persons are selling expired goods, goods that are not good, and we still buying them. So how are we helping? Right? How are we helping? Now we are here educating the public. And I bet you tomorrow, you're going to still find persons buying expired goods.
They do.
Because when I go to the store, and I'm coming on like health, coming out of stuff, person saying, can I have those?
Especially when they're expired.
Yeah,
and they're getting it for some reduced price,
yes.
Or they're getting it for free.
They still want to buy it. You understand? And this is the problem, right? So we have to continue to educate the people about eating healthy, right? Yes, buy more local because it's much more healthy, right? There's nothing wrong with the tin stuff, but try to buy more local and stop making these businesses continue with the bad practice, right? And continue reporting them to the consumer department.
Right, so the practices basically of consumers can allow businesses to continue certain patterns.
Yes, exactly. You're totally right.
Yeah.
You're certainly right. Because if you know a particular
because you're supporting the business.
The business.
And you're supporting what the business is doing.
It's doing. Which means you're happy. Which means you're satisfied.
You're creating a market. You use the term, you're creating a market for expired goods.
Yes. Because if you go on the shelf, and persons that consumer have to be careful when you see sales price. When you speak about sale price, you have to be careful. From the moment something marks sale, ask yourself, why is this item on sale? Start investigate, thinking, sale? Why is there a sale? Right? Which means that it might be there too long. Right? Maybe it could be the business closing down, but question yourself, why are these items on sale? Right? And if they're going to be expired tomorrow, don't buy in bulk because you won't be able to consume them in time. So you can buy a small portion.
Well, what I find sometimes when I go to Best Buy, I would see something that is expiring tomorrow and I really want to buy it.
But you're not going to use it.
But then when I buy it, I say, but I can't eat all that.
Exactly my point. And you make a perfect example. Right?
I can't eat all that before the expiration.
You're going to get it at a reduced price.
A reduced price.
Would you able to eat it before it expires? That's a health quiz. You know what I mean? I might have to call Mr. Brown Harris to share it. You know, say, hey.
So you're correct, they want to pick up a lot of it.
You just have to be smart. I said, be a smart shopper.
You have
Be
to
a smart shopper.
Yeah.
Be a smart shopper.
So
I can't say it no better.
If I can make a point, the caller keeps mentioning how persons are coming here and doing as they feel like, and I mean that really should not be the case. We have to appreciate that every member state will have their laws, and persons moving have to familiarize themselves with the laws of the land. And that is why we have our Ministry of National Security, our armed forces, etc., to enforce the law. And so, if persons are here doing as they like, I mean, something is wrong with us on the ground, then because that shouldn't be the case.
That should not be the
Understand?
case. But the point I was trying to make is that there are some of us who are not from outside who are also doing all kind of things with the law.
Exactly. So maybe
Making and breaking law.
Right.
And I mean, you know, he keeps speaking about the Chinese. I will tell you this much, right? There are instances where the Chinese had to close down, right, for, you know, breaching. But in a couple of days, they're back up because they fixed the problem. A local now, they're going to cuss, get on, and they're going to stay longer to fix the problem. They may even want to fix the problem. They may say, why should I have to fix this problem? Right? So like I said, sometimes we are our own, you know, fault. Right?
And I want to
Because
mention
we are standards. Are we speaking about standards? We
Yes.
have to follow the standards.
Yes.
If we follow the standard, it helps everybody.
Right. We have to be wrapping up soon. But in the climate of trade, and we are speaking about CSME and so on, we are welcoming to people within CARICOM
That is true.
to live and work here as long as they have the requirements to work here. And we must not be xenophobic towards people from outside. That must not be our attitude in today's world, because we go to other places, we want to be welcomed, and that is part of the problem. You didn't mention it, Lindis, but that is part of the problem that is hindering the CSME. We seem to be very territorial. And we don't see ourselves as a single space. So in other words, Antiguans will tell you, me and bang no water for come here. But yet you're there legitimately to work. You're a CARICOM citizen. You have a skill certificate. You're contributing to the economy in Antigua. And at the very same time, someone might say, the economy here. And as soon as you challenge something, they say, but you're not from here. You have no right to speak. It is wrong. It is dead wrong. And we have to stop it. We have to stop the discrimination. Whether it is the Hispanics or whomever it is, we have to stop the discrimination. It is this discrimination that is part of the problem that is killing the CSME. And we are one people.
I just wanted to add to what you're saying, and our governments have signed on to it. So as a matter of fact, like Mrs. Harris would have said, we can move too. Where there might be some difficulty is that we need to look at ourselves internally and do what we have to do. The issuing of maybe certificates so people can qualify, the educating of our people. I guess we have started the process. We are well on the way. So those are the things that we need to look at and be mindful that when we say something is local, we would have signed on to a treaty that says Caribbean is local. A business must be locally owned to qualify for this. Well, the man from Grenada is a local.
Yes, that's correct.
So we have to be careful with what we have signed on to.
And we have not had the opportunity on this program today because of time to discuss, for example, international organizations. Like the ministry's relationship with the World Trade Organization, the African, Caribbean and Pacific agreement countries and so on. But another time we'll have a chance for that. We're out of time. I'll give each of you 1 minute to wrap up.
Okay.
Lindis.
I would just want to appeal to citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis to take advantage of the opportunities to be derived from the CSME. We have a number of persons finishing with CFBC. They have associate's degrees. That is now a category of under which persons can move. Take advantage. You don't have to leave your families behind, because your spouse and dependents are now also allowed to travel with you, to move and work with you. So, I mean, take advantage. Let's take advantage. We can no longer sit down and keep saying that, you know, persons are coming and we don't want to go to Jamaica. There are opportunities out there. We just have to search for them. And I would also want to strongly recommend that persons who are desirous of moving do the necessary research before they move. So familiarize yourself with the laws of the land. What documents would you need to apply for the skill certificate when you move? Confirm the ministry or the agency who is responsible for issuing the skill certificate. So these are just some of the things that we can look at, you know, to encourage persons from St. Kitts and Nevis to move.
Well, I guess I would continue very much on the same vein, because we would want our business persons to know, our entrepreneurs, our small business people, that you're not in business alone. You're not out there alone. And so the ministry, especially via the Department of Industry and Commerce, we're there to offer you the support. Take advantage of the training as it is being offered. Of course, we want to provide you with that bridge where you can learn to navigate the local markets, the regional markets, the international markets. And so stay tuned.
The lady,
Yes.
small businessman.
Yes. Continue making a plug for our training that is upcoming on May 16th. You can register with us at the Ministry of International Trade. Our number is 467-1634. You can call and register, or we have a link that you can register at. It's going to be on customer service. Again, we talk about how important customer service is to businesses. So come on out on May 16th. The facilitator will be Dr. Christine Walwyn. He's a very good speaker, so come on out and share. Thank you.
Mr. Richardson?
I just want to say that consumer continue going out in the public, bringing awareness, and we will continue to make sure that we help persons to live healthy. So we'll continue to take up the expired goods, dented rusty goods, and we're gonna continue pushing the SKN Shopper app, so you can shop smart, be a wise shopper. I want to acknowledge my director, Mr. Paul Quealy. He's in charge of consumer, and the PS, Mr. Jasmine Weeks, and the head, the Honorable Lindsay Grant, right, for working hard to make sure that consumer is running. As you see, most of the call that came in was hitting consumer, because everybody want to know what is the consumer right. And just remember, you have rights, and remember, hold that receipt. That's your legal binding.
Right.
Okay.
Iran?
Well, the Bureau of Standards continues to act as not only a regulatory body, but also as a facilitator of trade. Something that we didn't touch on much, but it's very important for businesses to know that the Bureau of Standards can help you to grow your business. By achieving certification and even accreditation, you could allow your product or your service to reach regional and international markets. And the Bureau of Standards is still working for you.
Okay. Working for you. I like that. Okay, well, I want to thank all 5 of you for being on today's program and for sharing the important work that the Ministry of Trade,
And the
International Trade is doing.
Industry,
Of
Commerce
course,
and Consumer.
with the various departments, the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Department of Industry and Commerce, the Department of the St. Kitts and Nevis Bureau of Standards, and the Department of Trade. So, thank you so much.
And thank you for having us.
Right. Okay, I want to thank all of you who listened to today's program and who called in to today's program, offered your suggestions, asked your questions. We appreciate you joining us from week to week. Next week, we will be back with another edition of Working for You. Until then, I am Lesroy Williams.
Working for you. a weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you ears weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for you.